Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is George. I work as an Android developer in Eki, and it's really nice to see you all here in this beautiful space. But it's a little bit complicated space, so if I hope you can hear me from here. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, nice. Okay, today we're going to talk about onboarding, or more specifically about the view, pager, or swipe-based animated onboarding. First of all, what the onboarding is. Onboarding is the process or the set of techniques to make the user first experience with the app as smoother as we can. Of course, there exists a lot of different onboarding techniques. For example, maybe the most common is the walkthrough or tour. It's some kind of set of the screens that the user sees after he starts the app for the first time. It may be benefit-oriented or function-oriented. Benefit-oriented walkthrough shows the user the features that the app has, and the functions-oriented teaches the user how to use the app. Of course, there are different techniques, for example, contextual tips and tutorials when the application shows different elements of the UI and how the user may use it. Some smart empty states with instructions, and of course different other onboarding techniques, some kind of dummy data that the user uses before he starts to use the real data chatbots that are teaching the user how to use the app and things like this. But today we will talk mostly about the first one because it's the perfect spot for pager-based animations. Of course, any of you sees this kind of onboarding sometimes. It's the set of the screens. Each second, maybe a third app has this kind of onboarding. But sometimes the application misuses this thing. And it may be boring, it may be meaningless, and it may be just too big. So how can we make our walkthrough really good and eye-catching? So, of course, we may add animations to it and make it interactive. Why animations are good for such a thing? Because they draw user's attention. And when the user sees that something happens on the screen, he wants to use the app more, he becomes entertained with it. And the second reason, if this is the function-based walkthrough, we may give more meaning to the screen, like the animation is more meaningful than the static screen. And the second thing is interaction. People like to play. When the user interacts with the screen somehow and he sees that the app reacts in different ways, he becomes more involved with it, he wants to use it more. And of course, we may create some kind of interactive game with animations, but in the most cases we don't have enough budget or I don't know, maybe skill in our team. So what's the most affordable for us and the most and the easiest way to do it? Of course, to create a view pager and make animations interactive based on this view pager. Okay, now I will show you a couple of examples of the view pager based animations, and I hope it will work because sorry, screen mode. Yep. Okay, the first one is the onboarding of Google Drive. You may see that it is quite simple. Like the colors are changing when we are swiping. It's interactive. The colors are eye-catching, and it's really simple and informative. As you may see, the objects in this onboarding, they are moving with slightly different speeds, and this creates some kind of parallax effect. It's really a detail, but it's eye-catching and it's really delightful. And the second example, it's, well, basically it isn't the onboarding, it's a demo of the library that we are using, the Sparkle Motion, and the animations here are slightly different. You may see that they are more complex, and there's a lot going on. So this is the second approach. So now I have a question for you. Do you see like the principal difference between these two onboardings, these two pager-based animations? Have you noticed something that differs like really? Okay, I'll tell you. In the first example, the objects are animating inside the page, the specific page. They are contained by the page. And in the second example, all the objects, they are moving independently from the view pager. So in this example, the views aren't inside the view pager, and the view pager serves only as a controller for them. So there's two approaches to make this kind of thing. Okay, but independently on the approach, like the concept is always the same. It has 4 parts in it. Well, the first is the input. The input is the offset between pages. And so when I'm scrolling or swiping with my finger, the offset changes. And when the offset changes, it affects some kind of parameter. So this parameter may be whatever you want. I don't know, size, color, position of the object, and it's limited only by your imagination. It may be this. It may change linearly, but you may provide whatever relation you want to achieve different fancy effects and things like this. For example, you may have your parameter change exponentially or bounce or just whatever you want. But this isn't enough. When our view pager has more than 2 pages, we need to define like different animations for different page transitions. So we need to define the pages that are involved in this animation. So for example, I want to have one view change its parameters between the page 1 and 2, or maybe I want my color to be changed throughout the whole view pager, like throughout the whole onboarding. So we should define the pages. And now with this we may create an abstract concept about this animation we want to achieve. For example, between pages 1 and 2, I want to change the horizontal position of the view and provide the relation that the speed of the changing of the position of this view will be half the speed of my finger, for example. But okay, but how do we implement it? Oh, okay, another thing that I want to tell something about the parameters we may change depending on our offset. Of course, this may be whatever you want. The most obvious are, of course, position, angle, scale, the size. You may achieve some kind of implosion effect. With the opacity or alpha, you may achieve fade-in, fade-out effect. You may combine all these parameters together to make some fancy stuff. And if you have a graphic in your team or a video maker, you may just affect the progress or the sequence of different images. For example, a GIF sequence or a Lottie view. I will tell something about it later. Or a video, just whatever. And now I'd like to show you the onboarding that we've made almost 2 years ago for our app Tapito. It's a news app that allows you to aggregate different newspapers and things like this, like different sources of information. It's really a complex app, and that's why the benefit-oriented onboarding is good for it. So we would like to present the features of the app to the user that aren't like obvious from the first glance. So you may see that the animation comes here from the first slide. You see that roulette there going up and the clouds are going down. And then we're starting with the interactive animation. So as I move my finger, you may see that there's a lot going on. Like the color of the frame changes, the color of the sky and the ground changes. The shelves are moving with different speeds, creating this parallax effect. And in the background, the other shelves are going up. Then we're scrolling further. We may see that the animation of the bulb isn't interactive, like it pops when the page becomes visible, but otherwise, all the other things are moving depending on our finger. So the next slide, we may see that the hand comes out, and it's the combination of rotation and translation animations. And the newspapers are going from the sides, and these slides just represent that you may have all this content inside your mobile phone. And the last slide, the clouds are moving with different speeds, creating this gathering effect. And again, all the colors are changing. So it's really simple, relatively simple, but it makes the onboarding a little bit more live than it was without the animations. But how can we achieve it? Oh. Of course, you'll see a lot of code here, and I know that you maybe can't see it from the last rows, but I will show you it step by step. We were using a library called Sparkle Motion for it, and it's basically a wrapper on top of the page listener. So it provides a convenient interface to define our to convert our abstract animation into the real code that is running then. So first of all, we are defining our view. Like I should say that all these objects that are moving inside this view pager, they are independent from the view pager. They aren't inside it, as you may see, and it's all like separate views. So here is the example of the phone moving from the side with the mobile. Oh, I'm sorry, the hand with the phone. And here we are defining this view. It's the hand with the phone, and then we are defining the decor. Decor, it's an abstraction under this object. It's a part of this library, Sparkle Motion, and it knows all the information that we need about it. It knows the page range that we want to, in which we want to change this parameter, and different other settings. Then we are defining our animations. So we can see that the rotation and translation animations are defined here. So it's in animation when the hand comes out, and the next one, it's when the hand like disappears to the bottom. Actually, oh, sorry, happens sometimes. Like here you can see that this is the page in which we want this animation to happen, and this is the starting point and the end point of our parameter. And then we are providing interpolator to it. For those of you who don't know, interpolator is the Android object that is defining the rate of the animation change. So like animations of the Android use it at like 2. But this library, it allows us to provide interpolators as the sources of the relation between offset and the parameter that we want to change. So here I'm using the Accelerate interpolator. It's the predefined Android interpolator. It means that the animation rate is faster in the beginning of the animation, and it decreases throughout the whole animation, and it's minimal in the end. Of course, there exist a lot of different interpolators. Accelerate, it's the opposite. Bounce interpolator was used with this bulb on top of the dog's head. So if you want to know more about it, just look at it. And then the last thing that we need to do for this animation to be initialized, we are setting it to the Sparkle Motion object. The Sparkle Motion object is already coupled with the view pager that we need. Sorry, I don't have it here on the slide, but it's just a single row. And now, when all these animations are initialized, like when we are using our view pager, we will see what happens like here. Okay. So, but unfortunately, the Sparkle Motion library isn't maintained now anymore. And maybe you think, why I tell you all about this if the library isn't supported now? Unfortunately, there is no alternative, and the library is still functioning, and you may fork it, you may use it. But personally, now, if I want to create some kind of view pager animation, if I want this animation to happen only inside the specific page, I mean, like in the first approach I've told about, then I go with Page Transformer. Page Transformer is the interface of Android framework, so you don't need any library for it, that you may set to your view pager, and it will. The only method you need to override is the transform page, and it is called when the offset between pages is changing, and the page is visible. So on the input you have the view. The view is the content view of the page, and the position actually is the offset. So here you may find whatever view you want inside this page and animate it. So for example, here we're animating the alpha, the opacity, and translation. So we achieve some kind of fade-in parallax effect. And it's quite simple, so we don't need any library for it. But if you want to make some fancier stuff and really complex things, I'd go maybe now with the combination of Lottie and Spritz. For those of you who don't know what Lottie is, it's the library created by Airbnb. It's the animation library that allows us to convert After Effects animations into the native Android animations. So you have to create your own Lottie animation view and have a JSON source of the animation. For create this JSON source, you need a body moving plugin. It sounds kind of complex, but it's quite easy. With this way, you are delegating all your work with the animations to your designer who creates this. And moreover, there exists a library called Spritz. It's the wrapper on top of the view pager listener, and you may really achieve cool things in 2 or 3 rows. I will show you a demo of this library. So this is the first slide. So it's basically it's all, but it's created with the help of Lottie and Spritz. As you may see, this animation here isn't interactive like at all. You see that the first half of each animation is depending on our finger, and the second half is autoplay. And this library allows us to achieve this thing only by this code. So you're defining your Spritz thing, then you set in the Lottie animation view to it, and then you're creating these steps, and you don't need to create pages for view pager by yourself. This library will create them for you. So basically, it's a really cool combination of things, and if you have a designer or you have some experience with After Effects by yourself, I think that's the better way to go. But if you don't have a designer and you want to do this animation like we did for Tapito, I think I've made a little research, and there aren't really a lot of alternatives to this library now. So you may want to fork it to change it however you want, or just use it as it is, or maybe you want to, with the help of Kotlin, you may write your own wrapper. It isn't so difficult to do it, and with the Kotlin you may achieve really great readability to make this DSL concise. And it's up to you really. Yeah, and this is how you initialize your sprites. Sorry, I forgot to show you. Just on start, you're attaching this view pager to the library, and on stop, you're detaching it. So basically, it's all. Like here, there are some links to the technologies I was talking about. Just feel free to see how it works. And basically, it's all. If you have some kind of questions, detailed question about implementation, you may find me after talks, drinking beer maybe. And if you have some questions now, or maybe you have some experience with pager-based animations and you want to tell some things, just feel free. I will open the Slido. If you want to ask some questions, you may ask it like straight here, or I will read this one question that is okay, how much time did it take to do the Tapita onboarding? Okay, I think because we didn't have much experience with things like this, I think maybe it was, I don't know, 3 days, something like this. I don't know how, like the designer provided us with the images, but all the animations we did by ourselves. So that's because that's why it's so like much time. Any questions? Anything? Well, yeah? No? Okay. I don't have an answer to this question because maybe yes, but I think in the IT world it may work otherwise, like the other way. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. The question was if there shouldn't be ice on the top in the glass rather than on the bottom. Yeah. Any more thoughts or questions? Then I think that's all. And we are looking forward to our next speakers. The next talk will be about IoT. So, thank you.